Agenda. The agenda was sent out in the packet for the September 10th meeting. Would look for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and second to approve the agenda. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to item number 3 of business, reviewing and approving of the August 13th meeting minutes. I was not able to join you. Looked like you had robust discussion, 3 pages, single-spaced of minutes. Thank you for the detailed and thorough minutes, but would ask those that were in attendance if you had an opportunity to review and any corrections or additions to the minutes.
I'll move adoption.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and second to approve the minutes as presented. Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to item number 4, and it was the August 2018 Department Activity Report that was again presented in our packet by Director Schmitz and Assistant Director Corman. Thank you for the summary and the updates across our programs, our parks, and our facilities. There was a lot of activity going on and kind of wrap up of the summer programs. Would look to the commissioners to see if there's any points of discussion that you'd like to have on the activity report, or from Director Schmitz or Assistant Director Corman, from your standpoint, if there's anything to add to the activity report. Okay. Everyone's looking for a short and efficient meeting today. We will file that with today's meeting packet or our minutes. Thanks again for the report on all that's happening. We will proceed to item number 5 on our agenda, the City Council meeting recap. There were 2 meetings, August 21st and September 4th, and would look to Director Schmitz to provide any more updates on City Council business.
Thank you, Chair Fryer and Commissioners. I'll just quickly read into the record here what took place at the last 2 City Council meetings, and that we saw that they approved the liquor permit for the Herman Monument Society to conduct Herman Fest this past Saturday. They accepted the donations. They authorized study of a potential Upper Cottonwood Street Park. They accepted the lease termination with Coalition for a Clean Minnesota River at the Riverside Park Building and authorized a new lease be established with Ron Bolden for the Riverside Park Building and his Learning Center. Authorized removing the bus parking at Shunlau Park. Authorized Cathedral High School to place a storage shed in Harmon Park. And then finally, the application they authorized to the Minnesota DNR for the Emerald Ash Borer Grant. September 4th saw the City Council again table action on the Herman Heights Park retaining walls, authorized hiring the firm ISG for design services of the Johnson Park Renew project, and then authorized accepting a grant from the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources for up to $22,362 for improvements at the Trap and Skeet Range. And then they tabled action on phases 3 and 4 of the proposed bicycle share routes. That's all the City Council action directed towards Park and Rec over the past month.
Okay, are there any questions or other comments from commissioners related to City Council business over the last month? I think a couple of the items we're going to revisit this afternoon. Hearing none, we'll move on to old business and item number 6 for Renew update. Since our last meeting, we have had another Renew committee meeting. Again, this is a representation of city leadership, City Council, and Park and Rec representatives. And the order of business, the agenda that we worked through, a few items of business. One was approval of a proposal for Johnson Park planning services, and I hope that was accepted, but I think we were recommending approval to get that project started, so that's very exciting for Johnson Park to kick that one off, and pretty aggressive timeline to get things done, but group felt that was possible. The second thing that we focused on was for the rec center, reviewing soil borings, and great news on that topic was that all the borings came back without I would say, conditions that would require intensive soil corrections, at least at this point. Doesn't mean they were perfect, it just means we have avoided disaster conditions is, I guess, how I would characterize it, but maybe Director Schmitz would report it differently. on the soil
No,
borings.
Chair Fryer, I would simply say that they're acceptable to our proposed additions at the Recreation Center campus.
So we knew they wouldn't be optimal, but we were trying to avoid any type of soil corrections that would make it either cost prohibitive or require us to look at other locations in the city for some of those projects. The next steps for Renew were to recommend to city staff to put out RFPs for the rec center, both the architect and construction management. So that is I'm guessing, in the works.
It's at city administration and the city attorney's office. The department has, drafted the RFPs, and they're at admin and city attorney approval at this point. I anticipate in the next week or two that they will be going out, next 2 weeks.
So we were hoping that in the next 45 days or so, we could bring on an architect and construction manager for the rec center. As a reminder, I know this commission is aware of it, but the city did sell the bonds that were required for Renew in excess of $7 million. And there's a stipulation that we have 18 months to spend the proceeds from those bonds on the projects. So it may seem like a long time, but those that have been involved in major capital facility projects, it can go by pretty quickly with the design phase, the bidding, the construction, the phasing. So it's exciting. I think the next steps that are going to be occurring, a lot of activity will be taking place. I guess, Director Schmitz, do you think there's other updates or questions of the commission here to weigh in on the Renew projects at this time?
Yes, Chair Fryer, I'll just add to your wonderful report the fact that the Herman Heights design RFP is out, and design firms, engineering firms, civil engineering firms are looking at it, and those will be open. They're due October 3rd, Wednesday, October 3rd at 3 o'clock. And so there will be, an oversight committee meeting after that, certainly, to review those. And then other items, we are continuing discussions with the gymnastics organizations, and I think we're very close to an agreement with the gymnastics organizations for them to commit. They verbally committed to renting the gymnastics center on an ongoing basis. They're very excited about that. The association and Turner are planning to merge and operate under the umbrella of Turner Gymnastics. And then the high school is planning to utilize those facilities also. I think they share a lot of coaches in those various programs. So that's coming along. And then the Dome location study continues. We're still talking to the Brown County Agricultural Society, the Fair Board, about possibilities there, even though they have preliminarily, verbally mentioned that they're not real interested in the Dome being located in the fairgrounds. But we haven't got that in writing, and we're still in communication with them. We still have the option up at the high school, if we desire that winter seasonal facility with turf only, athletic turf only. And then we have entered into new discussions with Martin Luther College about the partnership with them and possible location of that facility being on or near their athletic campus between the Bedker Corner and 5th North, Casat 27, and Oakwood. So those discussions continue, and everything seems to be optimistic and moving forward. I think that's all I have to add at this time.
Would open it up for questions on Renew of the projects.
Would that dome require land acquisition?
It depends on the location. There's some areas that would not require land acquisition, and other areas that may require land acquisition or an easement. You know, presently, we still have a lease easement agreement with the Fair Board to locate our civic center on their property, and there's an annual lease cost with that. So there's a number of different options as far as the land goes related to the location. We're still looking seriously at a year-round permanent fixed roof structure as opposed to a winter seasonal temporary structure. So stay tuned for further developments. As far as Johnson goes, I anticipate a subcommittee meeting on Johnson convening in the next month or so. We're bringing the designers on board, ISG out of their Mankato office and some of their other offices, and we will be convening a subcommittee meeting with them within the next month or so.
Okay, any other questions on Renew? It'll be on the next agenda, so you can ask them next month too, I'm gonna assume. But that's an exciting old business item. Great opportunity for us. Thank you, Director Schmitz. On to new business, item number 7. We do have donations to review and recommend approval for. Director Schmitz, you want to recap them?
Yes, thank you, Chair Fryer. I'd be happy to read these into the record. For the Herman 5K run race coming up in a few weekends, that first Saturday of Oktoberfest, the annual Herman 5K, we've got $150 cash donations from both Dietrich Specialties, Gisselson Law Firm, Century 21 Red Shoe Realty, and Riverview Sanitation. Again, each of those 4 organizations have donated $150 cash each. The final donation is $100 cash from Paulette Kroll, honoring New Ulm Cathedral High School class of 1983 for a paver stone and future improvements at German Park. So the grand total this month is $700 in cash donations. I recommend you forward it on to the City Council for their acceptance.
Okay, would look for a motion of support or approval.
I make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and second to recommend City Council accept the donations that were just read off there. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to the next item of new business, Herman Heights retaining wall. Director Schmitz.
Thank you, Chair Fryer and Commissioners. I should have put this into old business. This has been around being discussed for some time now, so I'll have to correct that. But I just wanted to bring it back to you. The City Council has received more information than the Commission has, and so now all the information that has gone to the City Council is before you also for review. There are 4 options that have been presented to the City Council for the retaining walls, the Kasota Stone Limestone retaining walls on Center Street. And so just to paraphrase, option 1 is the slope, just a grass slope, maybe some modest woody vegetation, shrub, tree possibilities there, but basically a mowable slope with a small retaining wall around the restroom to preserve the restroom and keep that viable. That's the least expensive option for $260,000. And then option 2 at about $585,000 is to mimic the south side of Center Street Hill, the Martin Luther College manufactured retaining wall blocks. Option 3 is $591,500. Option 3 shows a grand stairway going up into the park from Center Street. Not what some people refer to as the grand stairway to the east of the monument in the master plan. I actually refer to that element as more of an amphitheater than a grand staircase, because I think that's what it would be used for, more so if that were created in the future on the east side of the monument. And the 4th option is a grand view concept. Option Number 3 and number 4 were created by consultants Bolton and Mink quite a few years ago when we looked at this. And no action was taken about a decade ago. And so they've updated these potential designs and costs. For $844,000, we can have this grand retaining wall system with significant vegetative plantings. So I think we all realize that $200,000 was placed into this year's budget, 2018. If the project is not completed this year, that money would remain in the Park and Recreation Fund. Or if it needed to be carried over into next year, it could be carried over into next year's budget if the project is going to move into 2019. But I just wanted, the city council's looked at this 3 times. It's going to go back to them, at least a 4th, in hopes of trying to get a final decision from them. And I think they might be interested in having you look at it again, as you did a few months ago, to see if the commission has a consensus or a group decision on what they would like to see done at the Herman Heights site, and a recommendation that you could forward on to the city council. It may be the recommendation that you made months ago for option number 1. But I just wanted to make sure you had all the new information and had an opportunity to chime in on it again. Any questions or comments?
I guess for me, I appreciate that the budgetary numbers were refreshed or brought up to kind of current cost estimates for a project happening or occurring now. If money were not an issue and all were equal, then I think there might be other options, but I see it as a matter of having to kind of choose some priorities for the city, and the difference between 1 and 2 and 3, I see there's an aesthetic appeal or upgrade, but I just look at all of the other budget needs that we've had within Park and Rec and across the city for functionally improving quality of life and recreation and opportunities, and I see if we invest more in this project, it has to come from somewhere. It's not a matter of taking it out of additional bonding, I assume, so it's a trade-off, and it's one I feel like from a safety standpoint, something needs to be done. And I'm hoping we don't lose a lot of aesthetic appeal if we move forward with option 1, but that's just my reflection on having this here for 5 months or 4 months. Other thoughts?
Well, I think you've summed it up rather nicely in considering the trade-offs between the 4 options, and although I like the option 2, because of the mirroring the MLC side of the street, which I think looks very attractive, and it would be quite, I think, for that location, that kind of a centerpiece location in New Ulm, to have the other side the same way. But as you mentioned, there are trade-offs, and we may need to be looking more at the practical aspects of other needs, and so I would lean towards that option 1 as the 260,000 more so than option 2, as much as I would like to see option 2.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Sunderdahl. Others? Anyone else wish to?
I'll throw my opinion in. I'm speaking myself as a counselor, not for the city of New Ulm, but the feedback I was getting on these option 1s, option 2s, now that the public has seen them, can see what they look like, a lot of people said, well, if we're going to do this, let's do it right. We don't come up Center Street Hill. We see a 9-foot-high retaining wall and an outhouse. That's the first thing that's the first thing you're going to see when you come up that hill. You're going to see a 9-foot-high retaining wall, and there's the restroom. So the people that were talking to me were just saying, if they're going to do this, do it right. Don't come back 5-10 years from now. It looks ridiculous. The steep hill, the restroom's sticking out, do it right. And again, it's one of these years, we got some big park numbers and projects we've got to do. So it's, where can we pull the money from?
Thank you. Others interested in commenting, sharing your perspective or recommendation? We don't get too many $550,000 requests in front of this commission, so now would be the time to speak
Voice
up.
your opinion now.
Yeah.
That's it.
Am I correct in assuming that, I mean, there's one, a recommendation, but if it's a recommendation in the context of what the trade-off is, I mean, that's where I'm struggling a little bit, Tom, of if it's, well, we can do option 2 or 3, but it means then we can't do project X, Y, and Z in the next 2 or 3 years because we've committed our funding to this. Is that a fair assumption, or is this money going to come from some other fund?
Chair Fryer and Commissioners, that's an ultimate question for the city council. The city council has the authority to, put it on the tax levy, on property taxes, or they have the authority to fund it in other ways. There are some fund balances in other departments, for instance, the administration department. As we all know, the council authorized $1 million for the levee berm, for the Minnesota River berm, and $1.2 million recently for the National Guard Armory. So there are pockets of different funding options available for the city council, which would be the ultimate, decision-making body. The Park and Recreation Department fund is significantly limited with projects like this. So, ultimately, it's a city council decision on where the money would come from and what option they would like. Your recommendation for option 1 is still standing and is still before the council. The council knows that. If you want to reiterate that, again, at this meeting, you could. Or if you want to change your recommendation to a different option, you certainly could do that also today.
Okay, looking to the rest of the commission here for guidance on what option. Keep the option we had, reiterate the option, change options. Is there an interest in taking action this afternoon?
In my opinion, I'd say we should stay with the one option. I mean, if we're gonna, either we take it, like you said, from the Park and Rec budget, or we have to levy it from the standpoint to the taxpayer again. I mean, that would be my opinion.
Okay, so is that a opinion or a motion or what? I'd like to move to act on this one, and I know we got a couple other items here yet on the agenda. I don't want to put words in your mouth, so it sounded like an opinion more than a motion, so.
I look at it as if we aren't footing the whole entire bill possibly, and to do it right, I'd say option 2. That's just my opinion. It might look better being mirrored. I like that option better. I just think about if you're going to slope it in a hill, you're going to have kids sledding down it and going into Center Street. But that's just my opinion.
That's what my wife said.
I agree to option 2. Do it right.
I think option 2, yeah.
So we have a few interested in option 2, a few interested in option 1. Anyone
And with
interested?
a few more interests from other commissioners in option 2. As you know, I've been wavering on this one. I would swing over to option 2 side. Just expressing my opinion here.
So I guess one question I'd have is it a preference in option 2 as the design, or would you support that with, if it meant it came out of the Park and Rec budget for 18 and 19 and took the rest of the funding, we had to figure that out from a budget standpoint, or is it if they levy it?
A comment I'll make on, there were some big dollar items on this last budget that were not pre-budgeted for. Granted, the city has discussed using general fund balance to fund the $1 million boiler, but then it was all of a sudden came across, okay, we want like another $500,000. Okay, wait a minute, let's see, that's a big budget impact, $1.5 million, and you're not sticking anything into our normal $500,000 for parks.
Right.
And I attend this meeting as a counselor. I'm going to take, what's this board looking at? Okay, here's what the Park and Rec Commission, a lot of people have contacted me on it, and we go from there and figure out where the money comes from.
Okay. So, looking for action or a motion?
It's just a motion, people. Council will take action on it.
I'm looking for option 2.
I'll support the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to recommend option 2 and a second for option 2. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No? Motion carries.
And you should, yeah.
Two noes?
All right. Well, thanks for the thoughts shared, perspectives, all important in this discussion. And we'll look forward to seeing how the council takes this item up and decides the future state of Herman Heights Park and the retaining wall. So lots of changes coming there, obviously, with Renew as well. Next item on the budget, or on the agenda, was the budget and fees. So item number 9 was the fee schedule, and again, action form is included in our packet that was sent out, along with an overview and some other considerations. Would ask Director Schmitz to comment more.
Thank you, Chair Fryer and Commissioners. You've had the department proposed fee schedule for you over the past month now for review. The only input I have received from the public or user groups is from the New Ulm Baseball Association, operators of the Brewers amateur baseball team, and they met with me and voiced a concern about high fees. And so we discussed that. We discussed a number of different options. And I think we're all probably aware of one aspect or one philosophy in our fee schedule is to have a volume discount scale for local users. At the Civic Center, we have various levels. If you buy 200 hours or 500 hours of ice, there's a percentage volume discount rate. And we have that at Johnson and Miller Parks also, but there's 2 categories in the past, and so I'm proposing we add a 3rd category, which would make the Baseball Association eligible, the Brewers team. They were ineligible for the volume discount in the past because of their fewer number of games played. So item C, under the overview, shows what we're proposing, and that would be an 8% volume discount if you rent 12 to 29 games at Johnson or Miller Parks. And that would qualify the Baseball Association for a modest volume discount. Another option for the commission to consider in relationship to the Baseball Association and the Brewers team would be we have initially proposed in the fee schedule a, cost of living increase. And that is, Johnson and Miller, it was like a 3%, roughly a 3% for days, 1% for nights games. You could consider a 0% increase recommendation if you want to further ease the financial pain, I guess, of the association when it comes to renting those facilities. So that is the only input I have received over the past month on a proposed fee schedule for 2019. Other than that, there's nothing new or different that has come up over the past month. And so Assistant Director Corman and I can try to answer any questions you might have. We do recommend that you try your best to, recommend adoption of a fee schedule of some sort at this meeting today.
Okay, thank you, Director Schmitz, for the overview. Would open it up to the commissioners for questions as it relates to the fee schedule and the update with New Ulm Baseball and the proposed volume discount or a new category that's being added.
A point of clarification on the volume discount for the new category, where it's 8% for 12 to 29 games per year. So if a team, just say, plays 12 games, do the first 11 also get the discount, or would it only be the 12th game that gets the discount?
Yes, they all do.
They all do.
Right. What I do is we take the average amount of volume that they've had the year before, and that's what we bill. Once they hit that amount, then we credit back the difference.
Oh.
So then that goes toward their
That's-
next month's bill or the end of the year bill or wherever they are in the season.
And I have one question, just for clarification. I know you met with the baseball representatives. They were all right with that, item C? I know they like it for free, but I mean, they were in agreement with it, or?
Well, they were happy to see a volume discount category that they could qualify for. There's a couple of members of the association here, they could certainly chime in.
Well, any discount is better than nothing. I mean, the better would be no increase, but we may not even get to 12 games. I mean, we actually, if our team doesn't make the playoffs, we don't even get 12 games, okay? I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean,
I was actually expecting a report at this meeting. With the other communities, we had a little discussion on at the last meeting of, what they're paying for the use of diamonds.
I did talk with Marshall and Osceola. Both do not pay any field rent for their amateur baseball teams. Hutchinson pays $40 for a day game, $90 for a night game, but their state tournament fees were all waived in the state tournament. There were no fees. New Prague pays $500 a year for use of their field. We know we have to pay a fee. We're not trying to get it for
yeah,
nothing.
and I think we're all in that. I mean, we have pretty nice facilities, okay? And yes, I think we have to pay fees, okay? I think as a organization, we will probably come forward at the state tournament, I mean, and ask. I mean, that's a lot of baseball games. Even the discount isn't gonna make a big difference. I mean,
65 games at Johnson
Yeah.
Miller Park.
so, like I said, we do have to pay fees. I mean, that's just the way it is. Just the way it is, okay? I mean, we're not getting hardly nothing from New Ulm High School anymore. The Region 2 champ thing is probably still gonna be there, and that would be all we'll get, probably. Probably, we don't know that for sure though yet. I mean, as of right now, yeah, they're supposed to be playing up there, but they're still supposed to might be playing down at Johnson or Miller, okay? I mean, Cathedral, MVL, do they make 12 to 29 games? I don't know.
Cathedral does, but
MVL probably
MVL does
doesn't.
not.
They played a bunch of games out there this year because of the snow and the rain, but, it really
I think I
doesn't.
looked the last 2 years and I didn't
I
recall.
would have thought maybe
I can-
last year MVL would have made it, but maybe
I
not
can
this
look.
year.
I can look right now if you want to continue discussion.
I mean,
Okay.
the Legion, they easily get enough games because they got 2 huge tournaments. I mean, they get to the bigger discount yet. So,
Is that too quick Tom, for when the council looks at it, I mean, those will be coming up soon to us, what, I'd automatically ask, some of the others might, what do other area communities do? What does Mankato do? What does Hutchinson do? Marshall, Waseca, what do they do? Just a comparison.
Well, I was told by Mankato that Franklin Rogers, in order to even get on the field, it's a $200 fee, but,
And boy,
and then they have to pay,
I mean, that's the
They have
data
to
I'd be
pay for
looking
the
for,
game
as
also.
myself as a counselor.
but
I want to
there
look at the
again,
other
Franklin
cities.
Rogers, though, is run by the Moondogs. Everything has to go through the Moondogs. They have the first say.
and I talked to the city of Mankato, and I was under the impression that they ran the field, but I could be wrong. I don't know the ins and the outs of the agreements that they have.
I know they have to, the Moondogs have to be out of there when that, like, the Region 2A is there, So, I mean, Mankato West even had high school games at Eastfield because they couldn't get on there, so, I don't know. Mankato's a lot different than New Ulm, though, I think, but they spent a lot of money on their field. $4 million. So,
Well, I guess I wasn't here last month, but appreciate there's some follow-up that has occurred and trying to make it more sustainable for New Ulm baseball. Won't do us much good if we have these wonderful facilities and parks and fields if they're not going to be utilized. At the same time, we'll talk about the budget next. Somehow, everything needs to be paid for to have outstanding facilities and fields, and it seems like we're trying to find that sweet spot of public-private partnership and making this thing go. If we're not quite there, then I think more conversation, more discussion. But I also think Tom's looking for us to take some action and make a recommendation to the council on the fee schedule, right, this month, not table it again?
That's correct. The city council needs to see the fees as well, so it
Okay.
needs to go to the council
Give
meeting.
them some time as well, okay.
And I have a report back on MVL if you want to know. In 2016, they had 12 games. Last year, they had 9, and in 2018, they had 7.
yeah, see, so they wouldn't get it either, so.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion on fee schedule, including not only baseball, but the rest of the fee schedule? Hearing none, there's some considerations. You can make up your own, but there were some considerations and options to consider here. Is anyone willing to make a motion, at least for a recommendation to the city council?
Well, to throw it out there, to keep it moving, I would suggest that we recommend the changes here for the 8% discount for 12 to 29 games, and also propose a 0% increase for this year for the Johnson and the Miller Park fees.
I think it's one or the other, isn't it?
Could be both.
Yeah, it doesn't really distinguish one or the other.
Volume discount, add that, and propose a 0% increase. Certainly an option. Another option you have is to alter the proposed 12 to 29 games. If you want to go down to 10, you could do that. But I think the motion right now is 12 to 29 with 0% increase.
Okay, so if I'm hearing this correctly, now you're just talking about Johnson, the rest of the fees would be as proposed, included on the schedule here, is that correct?
That's
Commissioner
what I'm
Sandoval?
throwing out for consideration to see if it has any other support.
So what I'm hearing is the motion is this fee schedule as presented would be supported, and there would be the additional 8% discount for the volume of use of Johnson and Miller, and there also would be a change to the Johnson and Miller rates to not have any inflationary or consumer price cost of living increase. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion on the table if you were following what I think I summarized? Hope I summarized.
I'll make the motion that we just do what you said.
So he had the motion.
Okay, well,
Are
I'll
you-
second
I was
it
trying to,
then.
I was trying to recap that. And motion and second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any more discussion on the fee schedule for 2019? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Thanks again, everyone, for your input, insights. We have one more item of new business, 2019 budget. Again, there was a action form included along with plenty of detailed information that you were able to go through. The quizzes will begin here after the meeting on all of those numbers and data points, but I'm joking about that a little bit. Did want to, I did take some time to look at it, trying to be a engaged commissioner here of looking at my report, but I needed to translate it a bit, so you all have a one-page to kind of break it down a little more into each section of the budget or the facility or area of investment between the community center, civic, recreation, outdoor pools, parks and fields, and then a roll-up. And to kind of see the budget, where we're investing and to what amount, and then second, how that is funded from sources of revenue including fees, and then tax revenue from local and state. And kind of on this, I don't know what other cities, what that ratio is of fee revenue to tax revenue to spending per capita, et cetera. That might be, other interesting data points that we could have, but at least that relationship. And then if we are interested in making movement on fees in the future, usually no one likes to pay them. We hear that consistently here. What are options for a commission and ultimately a city council to undertake? And at least my view of it is it's you shift it to tax, you keep the fee structure, but encourage the public to help support private investment. We lower our operating expenses to tolerate lower fee revenue, or we create criteria, and the other thing is to create more criteria for fee reduction or no fee status. I think there's, if I'm Director Schmitz, I don't envy the position of trying to figure out when to say yes, when to say no, what's that criteria of what gets discounted or what gets no fee status. It's not an easy position to be in, so empathize with you. I don't know if this is helpful, but it was at least helpful for me to kind of see the numbers and where the sources of revenue come in.
I do have one, Tom. Can you go down to page 42? On the community center, just curious with the taxes in general, the LGA, we have the budget, comparison budget 219. Is that how it's going to be submitted with the decrease or the reasoning for it? That's the one that just jumped at me.
Counselor Christian and Commissioners, that detail is not completely finalized yet.
Okay, I didn't think so.
This
The
is
LGA.
not the exact, the council will have at their next meeting, a week from tomorrow, the proposed preliminary budget from the Finance Department. This is not exactly finalized yet to what the council will see a week from tomorrow. Generally, it is. Was there specific line items, Counselor Christian?
Yeah, those jumped at me, like, was it omitted? The taxes in general, I know you got them tax
The revenue
money.
section.
Yeah, I know you're gonna
Right.
get some
Right.
local government aid, or
Yeah,
Nicole
that's-
hasn't got that figured out yet?
That's
Okay.
incomplete. Yeah,
That's-
that has not been
That's good.
entered by the Finance Department. Another change I want to point out, I think we're all aware of the boiler replacement project at the Recreation Center to the tune of approximately $1 million. That is at presently being proposed to come out of the general fund as opposed to the Park and Recreation Fund. even though right here in the handout, it's showing coming out of Fund 215, which is the Park and Rec Fund. But the city council at their last work session made it sound like that would probably be coming out of the general fund. So this budget comparison report, again, is not entirely complete and finalized as far as what the council will see a week from tomorrow.
If that's the case, Tom, under the primary considerations, we have, approximately $500,000 targeted for repair, replacement, small new investments. Would you be bringing back additional items, or would we assume that 2019 would be a year where we would spend less in that category because of the boiler replacement through the general fund?
That'll be a question that'll be answered by the city council. The preliminary budget is set, preliminarily in September, and then we go through the month of October and November and early December on potential changes, reviews, and it's not adopted until almost Christmas. So changes can certainly take place after the preliminary budget is set in September. So depending upon what comes out of the council meeting a week from tomorrow, departments and administration will be looking at that. It's very true, if that $995,000 comes from the general fund as opposed to Park and Rec Fund, there may be an opportunity for other projects to be proposed or repairs and replacements to be proposed in 2019, because we do normally spend about $500K on projects, repairs and replacements, an occasional new project. So stay tuned. We'll know more at our commission October meeting, and we might have the opportunity to make some suggested changes before the final budget's adopted at Christmas in December.
And how does the local option sales tax maintenance fund and kind of planned replacement or reinvestment in the 2001 projects, how does that work from a budgetary planning standpoint?
That's an entirely separate fund. That's Fund 224. And so the sales tax revenues go into that. We make the debt payments on the bonds, and then repairs and replacement projects come out of that fund. It's a constantly moving, dynamic fund. And as projects are planned, we have a plan to replace the roof at the Civic Center in year X. We have a plan to replace HVAC units at a certain, time that we expect them to need replacement. So that's a different budget with different planning, and the Oversight Committee did get an update from the Finance Department on that at their last meeting, and it appears that fund is stable and healthy, and it should be able to fund the new developments and repairs and replacements, as long as sales tax revenue continues to come in at an appropriate level.
I guess I was wondering about, we're going to be spending a lot of money and time and energy at the rec center.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the Vogel Fieldhouse is out of scope because that was prior project. That was the initial local option sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
And those monies are needing to stay attached to that. But if we're doing all of that rework, I was wondering about looking at the Vogel Fieldhouse floor, of which I have some complaints that, folks share with me on that condition and when we're going to upgrade and replace that floor. And wondering if we could work that into the plan that's coming up with the rec center on this round of renew, but look to the original maintenance fund to
Yes.
help with that floor.
Yes.
And then for safety reasons and safety only, elevate the track, because I don't think we can replace it in a current condition and maintain safety for the
Correct.
members of Vogel.
Yeah, those are all great aspects. The original projects, the large components of the original projects back in 2000, which in the field house is just the flooring, the rubber flooring, the basketball standards, the netting systems, curtain systems, and the lighting, those can all be replaced with sales tax replacement funds. Elevating the track, hanging the track from the ceiling might not be eligible for renew funds. But there may be an opportunity to use Park and Rec funds, 215 funds, If, do we want to possibly put that into the elevated track in the field house or into the retaining walls at Herman Heights? That may be a question that comes down the road at us. But replacing the rubber flooring is scheduled once we get into construction. We plan to do that. But we need to figure out exactly how that's going to work with, do we shut the building down to do some of this new development and repairs? Or can we phase it in such a manner that, obviously when we do replace the rubber floor, the field house will be closed for a period of time during that project. So it's on the list, the floor replacement. The hockey rink expansion joint was never removed before they put the original rubber flooring down, and that was a mistake. So when we replace the rubber flooring this time, we will be doing some concrete work underneath the rubber flooring to remove the hockey rink expansion joint to eliminate that little lip edge on parts of the track.
Okay, any other questions, recommendations on budgetary items for 2019? Hearing none, would look to the commission to, for someone to recommend on to the city council what's been presented for the preliminary budget for Parks and Recreation.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend the budget as presented, knowing there were a few holes in there that Director Schmitz acknowledged, but the expense stuff looked to be pretty much in order, but we have a motion to recommend to the City Council what's been presented.
I'll second.
And we have a second. Any more discussion on the 2019 preliminary budget? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to the reports section of our agenda. Director Schmitz, projects, programs, and partnerships.
Thank you, Chair Fryer and Commissioners. You have before you in the packet written verbiage, as we do monthly, about the status of various projects and partnerships. I just want to add to that staff was very busy last week preparing a few parks for special events that occurred this past weekend at Herman Heights Park, Harmon Park, and Riverside Park. And we were very happy to partner with those private organizations that offered public programming and public special events in those parks. Other than that, I want to point out the fact that the recreation program supervisor vacancy, formerly occupied by Joey Schugel, that position closes at 4 p.m. Wednesday. So you have just 2 days to get your application in before that closes at 4 p.m. this coming Wednesday, September 12th. And then over the next week, we'll be reviewing the applicants. I understand there's approximately 30 applications into the HR director's office at this point. So we will review those and set up interviews for a few of the top candidates and hope to have that position filled within a month, hopefully. I know Assistant Director Corman is very busy doing her work along with the Recreation Program Supervisor's work, and we're all appreciative of that. What else news-wise? The Glockenspiel clocks and lights. We've got 2 of them done and 2 more to go. So enjoy the LED lighting illuminating the glockenspiel clocks after dark. And rest assured that the other two, the mechanisms are into the clock repair shop presently, and it'll take a month or two to get those back and replaced up inside the glockenspiel. I have nothing else special to report that's not been discussed or put in print already.
Okay, thank you, Director Schmitz. Time for commissioner reports. I guess one to piggyback on Director Schmitz, recognizing some of the challenge that comes along with staffing transitions and losing Joy Schugel from the department, knowing it's adding a burden on you. Also, just to recognize the Renew projects, while they're exciting for most of the community, the reality is it requires the current Park and Rec system to continue to operate, and asking our leadership staff to take on a lot of extra meetings and work to make sure those projects get planned and constructed appropriately. So just a thank you to Tom and Cheryl for what you have invested and what I know is going to be required over the next couple of years, above and beyond.
Thank you very much.
Anything else for today? Hearing none, our next meeting will be October 8th, same place, same time. Hope you'll be able to make it. We will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.